What if the floor you walk on is just the lid of a coffin, hiding secrets that should never have been disturbed? In America, the basement is not just a room. It is the dark subconscious of an architecture designed to bury what the sunlight would never forgive. Your house feels safe, but there is a reason you hurry when you turn off the light and walk up those wooden stairs alone. In this video, you will witness 3 real, documented cases of basement horrors that prove the most terrifying monsters aren't under your bed, they are under your floorboards. We are descending into the concrete tombs of Denver, the twisted labs of Connecticut, and the ritualistic depths of Savannah. Take a deep breath, because once you enter these sublevels, the door behind you may never open again. The concrete tomb of Denver, the silence of a basement is not a common silence. It is the weight of tons of concrete and earth pressing against the walls of a disturbed mind. In Denver, in the year 1988, the Spangler family learned that the soundproofing of a foundation can be a death sentence. What began as a persistent metallic odor transformed into an investigation that would paralyze the state of Colorado for decades of silence. Philip Spangler descended the creaking wooden stairs to check on a leak that seemed to sprout directly from the cold cement floor. The flashlight cut through the dense darkness, revealing that the moisture was not coming from broken pipes, but from something sealed under the house's original structure. There was an irregularity in the concrete, an area where the texture was subtly different, as if it had been patched in a hurry by trembling hands. As he broke through the first layer, the air became heavy, laden with the oppressive smell of ancient decay and industrial-grade chemicals. Police documents would later reveal that the previous owner, a recluse with no record, had built a hermetic compartment under the living room. Inside the vacuum created by the cement, time seemed to have frozen for the 3 figures that were deposited there with surgical precision. The victims showed no signs of immediate external violence, suggesting that the horror experienced there was purely psychological, slow, and extremely prolonged. Forensic analysis indicated that the internal walls of the compartment had fingernail marks, clawed deeply into the material that was once wet. The official investigation stalled when they discovered the original builder of the residence had died years prior, taking his dark motives to a cold grave. Neighbors remembered rhythmic tapping sounds that echoed during the early hours of the morning, sounds everyone ignored as mere thermal expansion. Denver police were never able to identify all the victims, as their biological records were not in any national or international databases. To this day, the house remained standing, but the basement was filled with solid concrete by court order to silence whatever remained. The feeling of being watched from beneath your feet is a primal instinct that rarely deceives us when the surrounding environment turns icy. American domestic architecture hides secrets that original blueprints and City Hall blueprints would never dare to register or publicly admit. Philip Spangler was never able to sleep on the ground floor again, claiming he could still hear the desperate scratching coming from the sealed depths. The Denver case is the perfect example of how suburban normalcy can be just a thin shell over a core of pure, unadulterated evil. The isolation of a basement allows atrocities to be committed without a single scream reaching the sidewalk or the ears of nearby neighbors. There are no witnesses in a well-constructed basement, and it is this technical characteristic that attracts the most predatory and dark instincts of our species. Every step down is a renunciation of the safety of the outside world and a surrender to the will of whoever holds the key to that door. Many American homeowners live over graves without knowing it, walking daily over the remains of lives that were erased in the silence of the concrete. The fear of the dark in the basement is not a childish fear, but an ancestral recognition that this is the territory where man becomes prey. The marks found in the cement in Denver suggest the victims were conscious until the very last second of oxygen available in that vertical tomb. The coldness of the executioner smoothing the plaster while hearing the despair beneath his boots is what makes this case a real urban legend. Police never found excavation tools, suggesting the basement was modified while the house was still inhabited by other innocent people. The trauma left in the foundation of that Denver residence is so deep that no renovation has managed to sell the property at market value. Investigators who entered the site years later reported sudden nausea and the sound of heavy breathing coming from the corners where the light doesn't reach. The Denver concrete basement remains a monument to human sadism, buried beneath the well-manicured grass of a common American garden. The inverted panic room of Connecticut. In Connecticut, a family purchased a Victorian mansion and discovered their basement contained a panic room that was not on the original deed. The door was solid steel and possessed a locking system that could only be operated from the outside, in the sublevel hallway. When they managed to break the hinges, they found an environment furnished like a 1950s children's bedroom, kept in an impossible state of preservation. Have you ever stopped to think that the videos you just watched, with flawless scripts and engaging narrations, might have been created by someone who never even touched a camera or a microphone? There is a new digital elite profiting heavily behind the scenes of YouTube and social media, building massive channels without ever showing their faces or spending thousands of dollars on equipment. While most people are frozen by the fear of being on camera, these individuals are using the hidden power of artificial intelligence to generate automated content that works and earns for them 24 hours a day. The secret to dominating this game isn't about having a famous face. It's about knowing how to command the right tools to create scripts, voices, and visuals that magnetically hold the audience's attention. I've gained access to a strategic method that reveals the exact roadmap for you to build your own invisible digital empire. Mastering AI to turn clicks into a real source of income. It is the perfect opportunity for those seeking financial and geographical freedom without having to deal with the pressure of being a public figure on the internet. Best of all, you can seize this opportunity right now for a symbolic price. The complete training is under an exclusive promotion, dropping from $97 to just $17. This is your passport to unlocking the knowledge you need to start your professional journey with AI today. Click the first link in the description to secure your spot while this discount is still active. There was not a single speck of dust, and the air smelled of baby powder and fresh lavender, despite the room being sealed for decades. A record player in the corner of the room began to spin on its own when the flashlight hit it, playing a distorted and slow lullaby. Municipal archives contained no records of children living in that house during that period the room would have been secretly constructed and used. The sensation of an invisible presence sitting on the iron bed was so strong that the new residents refused to enter the premises. They sold the house for a pittance months later, but the new owner reported that the door to the room locked itself every single night. Childish whispers asking to come out and play could be heard through the ventilation ducts, echoing through the residence during absolute silence. The Connecticut investigation revealed the former owner was a renowned psychiatrist who conducted unauthorized experiments on isolation and child perception. He believed a stimulus-free environment could force the development of psychic abilities in children kidnapped from distant orphanages with no records. The panic room was not for protection, but for the containment of something the psychiatrist claimed to have created through prolonged suffering. The toys found in the room were worn, but not by time, rather by obsessive and possibly violent use during moments of extreme terror. Teeth marks were found on the edges of the wooden table, suggesting the occupant of the room went through bouts of extreme anxiety or hunger. The psychiatrist disappeared in 1964, leaving behind only his notebooks written in a shorthand that no one has ever been able to decipher. The Connecticut room became a forbidden zone for anyone with a sensitivity to residual energies or manifestations of the spiritual or psychological plane. The sound of the record player playing without electricity is a phenomenon documented by at least 3 independent teams of investigators who visited the mansion. Many believe the child, or whatever was inside there, never actually left, even after the door was opened to the world. The architecture of fear in Connecticut shows that a basement can be used as a womb for the birth of something truly malignant and unnatural. The lack of windows and the acoustic isolation create a vacuum where reality can be bent by the will of a captor or the despair of the captured. Every object in that sealed children's room seems to carry the weight of 1,000 tears that were never heard by anyone but the steel walls. The current owners sealed the entrance with bricks and cement, but they claim the sound of balls bouncing on the floor still vibrates through the floorboards. The feeling of oppression is so vast that pets refuse to enter the hallway leading to the basement stairs of that particular house. The Connecticut case is a reminder that the past does not die. It simply waits in the dark to be rediscovered by someone unsuspecting. The psychological terror of knowing your home housed the laboratory of human suffering is a stain that no spiritual cleansing can totally remove. The basement is the repository for traumas that the physical structure of the house absorbs and replicates through sonic echoes and sudden temperature drops. Connecticut keeps this secret under the roots of its centuries-old trees, where the subsoil is a labyrinth of memories that should have been burned long ago. No one knows for sure how many inverted panic rooms are scattered across the rural properties of New England, waiting to reveal their hidden horrors. The basement is the perfect hiding place for the monster who wears a suit and tie and enjoys an impeccable reputation in society during the day. The descent into the Connecticut sublevel is a journey to the center of a nightmare that refuses to end, even long after the author's death. The subterranean cult of Savannah. The boundary between the real and the inexplicable dissolves completely when we descend the damp, ancient basement stairs of the city of Savannah. In a historic mansion, New owners decided to convert the sublevel into a wine cellar, but discovered something official history systematically tried to erase. The soil below the original floor was not composed just of earth and sand, but of compacted layers of human bones arranged in perfect spirals. These were not Christian burials or known rituals. They were geometric arrangements suggesting a deliberate attempt to channel something from the depths. The temperature in the basement remained a constant 10 degrees below the rest of the residence, creating a thin mist that floated near the floor. Reports from former residents mentioned a crawling shadow that never climbed the stairs but made the basement air impossible to breathe. One of the renovation workers suffered a psychotic break after claiming the exposed brick walls were sweating blood and whispering his dead relatives' names. Tools disappeared and reappeared inside the walls, as if the very building material was consuming and returning the heavy metal objects. Experts were consulted, but their electronic equipment suffered massive interference that resulted only in white noise and distorted screams on the audio recordings. The Savannah mansion was built over what was once a meeting site for an 18th-century occult cult that sought immortality through darkness. They believed that by sacrificing light in favor of the sublevel's darkness, they could create a space where death would have no jurisdiction over their souls. The basement was the central temple of this belief, a place where flesh and stone merged in rituals that lasted for weeks of total isolation. The shadow that crawls in the Savannah basement is not a ghost, but a physical manifestation of centuries of malignant intent accumulated in a closed space. Current residents report that sometimes the basement stairs seem to stretch infinitely, making the climb back to the light an exhausting and terrifying task. The fear of what lies beneath Savannah is a fear shared by many who know the true history of the foundations of that ancient coastal city. The Georgia soil is soaked in blood, and the basement is the most intimate point of contact between the living and the secrets. The earth insists on vomiting. The wine cellar was never completed. The space was sealed with lead plates and protection symbols that remain visible to those who dare to look. The darkness of Savannah is dense, conscious, and seems to have a hunger that only a human presence in the sublevel can momentarily satisfy. Many believe the Savannah cult still operates in tunnels connected to these basements, moving beneath the feet of tourists visiting the historic city. The sound of rhythmic chanting coming from the drains and floor cracks is a common report that local authorities prefer to classify as plumbing issues. The truth is that the basement is the entrance to a world that never accepted the laws of physics or modern morality that govern the surface. The idea that someone could live inches below you, performing rituals or just watching, transforms the home into an invisible and constant surveillance structure. The psychological terror lies in the certainty that your home's foundation could be the ceiling of a nightmare that began long before you were born. The American sublevel is a receptacle for the depravity that daylight simply cannot hold or process without extinguishing itself in the process. The descent into the basement is always a choice, but what climbs from there to your bedroom during the night is something you cannot control. Each of these three cases reminds us that danger does not only come from outside, but from what is already installed under our beds and rugs. The voices echoing in the concrete are not asking for help. They demand your attention and, ultimately, your permanent presence in the darkness. Be mindful of the sounds coming from beneath your feet during the quietest hours of the morning, for they may be the only warning you receive. What you keep in your basement might, at this very moment, be starting to climb the steps toward your door, driven by an ancient will. Darkness is not a vacuum. It is inhabited by everything humanity decided to bury, but which the earth refuses to keep properly dead. What would you do if you discovered your home was built on a secret that breathes and waits for your next solitary descent to the sublevel? The answers are hidden in the shadows that dance when your flashlight flickers, revealing shapes that human logic cannot catalog or understand. American terror is real, and it inhabits the place where you store your old memories and your worst fears, just beneath your tired feet. Comment below what you think of these cases and if you would have the courage to live in a house with such a dark and documented past. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the darkest mysteries of Florida and all of the United States with our narrative investigations. Leave a like if you also feel that the silence of your basement hides something that is just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself to you.